Chào mừng quý vị và các bạn đã cùng quay trở lại với chương trình Việt Nam trong tim tôi. Và ngay bây giờ chúng ta sẽ tiếp tục cuộc trò chuyện cùng với lại cô Christina Yu để tìm hiểu về những phụ kiện thời trang made in Việt Nam Ipanema đó nhé.
Hello, Ken.
Yeah, nice to meet you
Welcome to
again.
my house.
Yeah, very good house.
Thank you.
Okay.
People said to me it's very spiritual.
Okay, so cool. So, from when you have the idea to make some of the bag in your mind?
I moved to Vietnam in 1995, and then basically by 1997, I set up my brand Ipanema already. So my brand has been in Vietnam for more than 15 years.
Do you remember what is the first bag that you did design in your life?
Yes, my first bag, actually there are several because I did a first collection, and one of them is a very colorful basket which is made out of plastic bands. And I did my own color combination, and I probably did 7 colors, and I sent them to one of my friends who has a trading company in Hong Kong, and she get an order for me from Europe, and I shipped a container load out of them. But it was quite a painful exercise for me because at that time they have ISO compliance, so they say that my plastic weave band is too sharp and not safe for children. So I and my staff have to sit in a warehouse with a pair of scissors and cut all the corners of the plastic bands to make it more safe. And I also do crochet handbags with buffalo horn handles. I think buffalo horn is actually a very unique material from Vietnam, and now that I can see other people are also using buffalo horn to create cutlery, houseware items, and also jewelry as well.
How about your customer? What do they comment about your bags when you have a lot of materials?
I think they find my bag quite unique because we used a lot of materials from Vietnam, but not necessarily materials that are normally used for handbags. Yeah. And I like to try to use materials which people don't normally use for handbags and put it on a handbag. So I find it quite challenging, and I like experimenting in that area. And I think that some of my customers find that this makes the bag quite unique.
What makes the Ipanema bags different from the other bag?
I think we are very, very good in creating an accessory which are very unique, in the sense that we have a lot of labor-intensive elements in our bag, which you don't actually see in a lot of other brands. We're also very committed to making a very high-quality product with affordable prices to our customer. I think a lot of people come and buy from Ipanema because they know that Ipanema has a very signature look. It is something which they will not be able to get in other fashion houses. And it is very unique, different and eccentric. And they like to have something different in their wardrobe, you know. And I think we are very good in providing a customer with a refreshing new look in their accessories. Yeah. This is my cutting department, and also my fusing department. So you see that when we make the bag, we have a pattern, and based on this pattern, the workers will start cutting into the fabric. And this is our cutting machine, and that's our fusing machine, and this is where we cut all our leather by hand as well, and for some intricate parts. After it has been cut, if the materials have embroidery to be done, it will go to the embroidery department. This is a very small department because
Can I go there to see?
Yeah, sure. You see, they are now working on my autumn-winter 13-14 samples, and you see that all these detailed, all the beading and all the embroidery has to be done by hand. Yeah. And of course, after the materials has been cut, if there is any embroidery to be done, we have to do the embroidery first.
I remember one of the details you told me is that the embroidery skill in Vietnam is kind of good, right?
Yes, very good, yes.
How can you recognize and you think about that?
Because I have also tried embroidery in other countries as well. I think China is not as good as Vietnam, or it is very difficult to find China suppliers to do embroidery. And I have also tried India, and I find that the delivery is actually very slow. Not very reliable. And of course you can also do it in France, but it is going to be super expensive. So after trying all the places, I actually think, I think this is a traditional handicraft, from Vietnamese, tradition. So I actually think the Vietnamese can do it very well. But of course, my role here is to try to explore new ideas and how to make the technique looks more interesting and more modern, compared to the generic embroidery that they have always done before.
But really, all of the foreigners or all of the customer, they really like the embroidery on the back.
I think this is one of the special features of our bag because they find that our bag has a lot of detail and looks very different and unique from other products. And of course, when they come to Vietnam, they will look for Ipanema because from Ipanema, they know that they will find this special technique, in Vietnam.
When you brainstorm a new design for your bag, how can you have the ideas to make it outstanding and make the people satisfied with the design?
Well, making people satisfied with the design, I think, is the more difficult part. Because you can design something you like with what you think your customer will like. But sometimes, customers may like a different thing. So predicting that is much more harder. Predicting my own collection is a lot easier because I normally find my inspirations in movies, books. I think normally now the fashion trend is people often get inspired by actress or the different look of an actress or a movie or travel. I think these are the three main sources of the inspiration of my collection. So for my next Spring Summer 2013 collection, I was fascinated with a teaser that I saw on YouTube about this movie called The Great Gatsby. And it's a new movie done by Baz Luhrmann, who also did Moulin Rouge. And it is a new interpretation of the movie because the first one was done by Robert Redford and Mia Farrow that I have seen when I was very young. And I thought it was a great theme for the collection because it's all about 1920s old world glamour. So there is a lot of elements I can use from the 1920s that I can put in my bags, like all the fringes, the tassels, the pearls, the rhinestone, the very romantic look and the very sophisticated, sort of classy Art Deco element in it. So that becomes the theme of my next collection.
So what is the occasion that you come to Hanoi and settle your stay here?
I came to Hanoi because my husband at the time and me were actually both working for a law firm in Hong Kong, and he got sent over to set up the Vietnam office. And after spending so many years in Hanoi, I feel like it is time for me to move on and have a change, no matter how much I love Hanoi, because I think it is good personally and also for my career and business as well. So that's why I decided to try out Ho Chi Minh City last year.
But why do you want to choose to change your passion?
Well, I don't think that I deliberately tried to change it. To a certain way, in a certain way, it was an act of God because I came to Vietnam and I could not speak a word of Vietnamese. I don't know anything about Vietnamese law, and obviously I will not be able to go into a courtroom and fight a Vietnamese case, which was what I was doing in Hong Kong before. So I started to look at other opportunities, and what I noticed is that Vietnam can produce many different things, but very few people know about what Vietnam at the time because Vietnam just opened. And I decided that I will work with a few NGOs who was working in Vietnam at the moment trying to promote economic development. So they were trying to help people in the countryside to do small businesses. So I sourced many things that Vietnam can produce, like embroidery is one of them, lacquerware, silver, horn items, even ethnic minority materials and silk, and I bring them to Hong Kong department stores and companies to see whether they're interested to do production in Vietnam, because at the time they're only doing production in China or maybe Bangkok. So that's how I started my business, and I did 1 year of product development and sample development for different brands, fashion brands from Hong Kong and also from Europe as well. And within that year, I find it was very hard for me because people here are still at the baby level because they don't understand why they have to create a sample without the order. But the people overseas said, I don't understand why I have to give you an order unless you have the perfect sample. So I have to bridge that gap all the time. And sometimes when I get to make the perfect sample, they say, oh, we changed our design team now. Now you have a new design direction. You have to sample something different. So I decided that it was not fair to my producers that I work with because I make them work very hard to produce a beautiful sample, but I don't have the control over the order. So I decided to set up Ipanema, my own company. And because whatever I sample with my producers, I see is a beautiful sample, I'm the person who controls the production and I can give them the order. So that's, to a certain extent, that was what's behind Ipanema as well, you know. And I think they made a very beautiful product. And I think with Western design and concept, you know, and give them new ideas of how beautiful their product can look, it can be a very good potential business.
16 years stay in Hanoi and 1 year, nearly 1 year in Ho Chi Minh City.
Yes.
What makes you love Vietnam?
I think I'm a person who likes challenges, and I think in Vietnam, every day is a challenge.
Today I'm very happy to hear your story and the way that you bring the happiness to all of the ladies through the best.
Thank you.
Before we finish the programs, do you want to say anything to the audience together with me?
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Hãy cùng tôi yêu Việt Nam.
Yeah, good. How about the dog? She can say.
Okay, of course you can say. Hãy cùng tôi yêu Việt Nam.
Thank you very much. And we also have a small souvenir to you.
Oh, thank you.
This is a small souvenir for you.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Christina Yu.
Thank you.
Vietnam in my heart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I hope that it will remind you about the programs. Yeah, Vietnam in my heart.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chúng ta vừa mới lắng nghe về câu chuyện về một người phụ nữ đã giúp cho thời trang Việt Nam được biết đến trên bản đồ của thế giới thông qua những chiếc túi làm đẹp cho các chị em phụ nữ. Và chúng tôi cũng xin cảm ơn quý vị đã đồng hành cùng với chương trình Việt Nam trong tim tôi. Xin hẹn gặp lại ở số lần sau với những nhân vật khác thú vị hơn nhé. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.
Bye.